Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to unpack the massive, complicated world of international trade. And we're going to do it by following the journey of something super simple, something you're probably even wearing right now, a t-shirt.
Okay, let's just dive right in. Take a second and look around you. Your phone, your shoes, the very shirt on your back. Chances are, a lot of that stuff traveled thousands of miles on gigantic container ships just to get to you. See, globalization isn't some high-level abstract idea. It's literally woven into the fabric of our daily lives. But how does it all really work? To get a handle on the huge forces that shape our global economy, we're not going to start with something super complex like a passenger jet or a computer chip. Nope, we're going to zoom all the way in on one single everyday item, a t-shirt. By tracing its path, we can actually see the entire global system in miniature.
So why even bother? Why do countries trade? Well, it really boils down to this big idea in economics called comparative advantage. It sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. Think about what a country has to give up to make something. That's called the opportunity cost. For the US to make one more t-shirt, it might have to use workers and factories that could have been building, say, an airplane. But for another country, the cost of making that same t-shirt is way lower. So it just makes sense for the US to focus on the planes, the other country to focus on the t-shirts, and then they trade. In the end, both sides get more stuff than they could have made on their own.
All right, so to see how this plays out, let's imagine a world with no international trade at all. We'll call it Scenario 1. In this world, the US t-shirt market is its own little bubble. The price finds a balance right at $8 a shirt. And at that price, US factories make 40 million shirts, and US shoppers buy 40 million shirts. Simple, right? Everything is made and bought right here.
But now, let's open the floodgates. Scenario 2, free trade. Suddenly we have access to the world market, where a t-shirt only costs $5. Well, what happens? American shoppers love it. The price drops, so we go out and buy way more. Our purchases jump from 40 million to 60 million. But look at what happens to our local factories. They can't make a profit at that low price, so their production gets cut in half, from 40 million all the way down to 20 million. So, wait. If we're buying 60 million, but only making 20 million, where does the other 40 million come from? You got it, imports.
In this right here, this is the central conflict of free trade. On one hand, it's a massive win for consumers. I mean, who doesn't love cheaper stuff and more options? It's great for our wallets. But on the other hand, for the local companies and the people who work there, it can be absolutely brutal. They're facing lower sales, they're closing factories, and people are losing their jobs. It's a classic story of winners and losers. So, what happens when an entire industry starts feeling that pain? Well, they don't just sit back and take it. They go to the government, they lobby for help, and they push for protection. This leads countries to build what are basically economic walls to shield their local industries from all that foreign competition.
And the number one tool for building that wall? It's called a tariff. A tariff is really just a fancy word for a tax. It's a tax that the government puts on an imported good right when it crosses the border. And the goal is super simple. Make the foreign stuff more expensive so the homemade stuff looks more attractive. So the moment you put a tariff in place, it sets off this whole chain reaction. It's like dominoes, falling. First, the tax is added, so the price on the shelf goes up. Because the price is higher, we the consumers buy less of it. But at the same time, that higher price is great news for local factories, so they start making more. And when you combine us buying less with them making more, the number of imports has to go down.
Okay, let's plug this back into our t-shirt world. Imagine the government puts a $2 tariff on every imported shirt. Well, that world price of $5 instantly becomes $7 for us. Now, at $7, US factories can get back in the game. Their production jumps up to 35 million shirts. And what happens to imports? They get crushed, falling from 40 million all the way down to just 10 million. The tariff worked. The local industry is protected.
But here's the catch. A tariff doesn't magically create new wealth, it just moves it around. Consumers lose out because they're paying higher prices. The local producers, they win because they get to sell more shirts at a higher price. And the government wins too. It gets to collect all that tax money. But look at that last line. Dead weight loss. This is so important. This is the part of the economic pie that just vanishes. It's wealth that is destroyed because the tariff stops some people from buying shirts they otherwise would have, and it forces us to use our own less efficient factories. It's a net loss for everybody. Society as a whole ends up a little bit poorer.
Now look, this isn't just a bunch of theory on a slide. This happens in the real world all the time.
So let's step away from our t-shirt example and look at a real-life case study, a huge trade fight between the US and China over car tires.
So here's the story. Back in 2004, things in the US tire market were pretty stable. But then, over the next 4 years, something crazy happened. Imports of tires from China more than tripled. This put incredible pressure on American tire companies. So in 2009, the US government stepped in and slapped a massive 35% tariff on those Chinese tires.
And you can totally see why they did it, right? The case for the tariff was pretty powerful. Unions were reporting that over 5,000 American tire workers had lost their jobs. 7 U.S. tire plants had shut down in just 3 years, all while China's share of the market had exploded from less than 5% to almost 17%. The tariff was designed to do one thing: save American jobs and protect a struggling American industry.
But, and this is a huge but, that protection comes with a staggering price tag. One study looked at similar policies that were protecting the U.S. textile industry, and what they found was wild. They estimated that because of the higher prices everyone had to pay for clothes, it was costing American consumers $221,000 a year for every single job that was saved. Let that sink in. That's the hidden cost that we all pay.
And this leads us to the fundamental, messy question at the very heart of this entire debate. We know that overall, free trade makes a country richer, but we also know those riches aren't shared equally. For every widespread benefit of a cheaper t-shirt, there's a concentrated, very real pain of a lost job. So who should pay for that? Should the worker who lost their job just have to deal with it? Should all of us consumers pay higher prices to protect that job? Or should taxpayers foot the bill for programs to help that worker find a new one? There are no easy answers here, and it's a question we're all still trying to figure out today.